Just 1 hour after the burial, a 7-year-old boy insisted that his father dig up his mother's grave, and the moment the coffin was opened, everyone held their breath. Just 1 hour after the burial, 7-year-old Ethan Walker clung to his father's sleeve and screamed, "Dad, we have to dig her up. Mom's not D3 at D, she's calling me." The small crowd of mourners, who had stayed behind after the funeral, froze in shock. The afternoon sky above the quiet cemetery of Maplewood, Ohio, was gray and heavy with rain. Ethan's father, Michael Walker, a 38-year-old construction foreman, stared at his son with hollow eyes. He was already broken. His wife Laura had D. 3D, suddenly 3 days earlier from what doctors said was a cardiac arrest in her sleep. "Ethan," Michael said softly, kneeling to meet his son's trembling eyes. "I know this is hard, but Mommy's gone now. She's resting." But Ethan shook his head violently, sobbing. "No! I heard her! She called my name when they were lowering her down. Please, Daddy, please!" The child's desperation cut through everyone's heart. Even the funeral director, who was about to leave, hesitated. Michael tried to soothe Ethan, but something about the boy's terror unsettled him. Ethan wasn't hysterical. He was certain, like he knew something wasn't right. Michael felt a chill crawl up his spine. That morning, he too had felt a strange unease. Laura's body had seemed unusually warm when he touched her hand for the last time at the funeral home. The mortician had assured him it was normal, that sometimes the embalming process could cause temperature fluctuations. But now, as Ethan sobbed uncontrollably and tugged at his arm, whispering, "She's still calling me," something inside Michael broke. Ignoring the murmurs from the onlookers, he turned to the cemetery caretaker. "Bring me the tools," he said hoarsely. "Sir, that's highly irregular," the man protested. "I don't care," Michael barked. "Get me the damn shoes, Zero Vel." It took several agonizing minutes of arguing before the caretaker, out of pity and fear of escalation, reluctantly agreed. The crowd began to gather again as word spread. Within half an hour, under the dimming light of the setting sun, Michael, Ethan, and 2 workers began digging up Laura's grave. Every shovel of soil made Michael's heart pound harder. What if this was madness? What if he was traumatizing his son, her? But when the shovel struck wood, Ethan grabbed his father's hand tightly and whispered, "You'll see, Daddy, I told you." Michael knelt down, trembling, as they pried open the coffin lid. The crowd fell silent, and then, as the coffin cracked open, a faint sound emerged that made everyone's blood run cold. It wasn't a scream or a groan, it was a muffled thump. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Michael's hands trembled as he lifted the lid completely. Inside, Laura's pale face stared back, but her eyes were open. "Jesus Christ," the caretaker whispered, stumbling back. Ethan screamed, "Mommy!" and reached for her hand. To everyone's shock, Laura's fingers twitched. Michael nearly fell backward. "Call an ambulance! Now!" he shouted. Within minutes, paramedics arrived and chaos erupted. Laura was lifted out of the coffin, weak, gasping, her nails bloodied from clawing at the coffin lid. Her pulse was faint, but it was there. "She's alive," one of the medics cried. "She's actually alive." The crowd stood frozen in disbelief as Laura was rushed to the ambulance. Michael cradled Ethan, both sobbing uncontrollably. Hours later, at Maplewood General Hospital, doctors confirmed the unthinkable. Laura had been buried alive after being mistakenly declared dead due to a rare condition called catalepsy, which can mimic death by slowing heart rate and breathing to near zero. The attending physician from before, Drive Helen Grant, arrived pale and shaken. This shouldn't have happened," she stammered. Her vitals were untraceable. Every reading indicated clinical death. Michael's grief turned into fury. "You buried my wife alive!" Dr. Grant swallowed hard, her voice breaking. "I swear we followed every protocol. There was no sign of brain activity. It's an extremely rare case." Laura remained unconscious in intensive care, breathing with the help of machines. For 2 days, Michael barely left her side, holding her hand, replaying every memory, every smile, every argument, wishing he had seen something the doctors hadn't. When Laura finally opened her eyes, her first words were weak but clear. "Ethan saved me." Michael wept openly. Ethan, sitting at the foot of her hospital bed, just nodded quietly, as if he had always known. But the ordeal was far from over. News of the woman buried alive spread quickly across the state. Investigations were launched, lawsuits filed, and Dr. Grant's medical license was suspended pending review. Yet, in the chaos, one question haunted everyone. How did Ethan know? Weeks later, the Walker family returned home. Laura was recovering, weak but alive. Their house, once filled with grief, now echoed with cautious relief. Family games. Reporters still called daily, but Michael ignored them. He just wanted his family back. One evening, as the autumn rain tapped gently against the window, Laura tucked Ethan into bed. "Sweetheart," she whispered. "That day at the cemetery, how did you know I was still there?" Ethan stared at her with wide eyes, fiddling with his blanket. "I heard you, Mommy. You said, 'Don't let them leave me.' It was really soft, like when you whisper goodnight." Laura's eyes filled with tears. "You heard that?" He nodded. "And I felt it in my chest, like my heart was telling me you weren't gone yet." Later that night, Laura told Michael what Ethan said. Michael sat silently, running a hand through his hair. "Maybe it wasn't just luck," he murmured. "Maybe there's something about the bond between a mother and her child that science can't explain." But Laura shook her head. "No, it's not magic. It's love, that's all." In the following months, Laura testified before the medical board about what had happened. Her case prompted hospitals statewide to adopt stricter confirmation procedures for death, double verification, extended observation times, and specialized training for rare coma-like conditions. What nearly became a tragedy turned into reform that would save countless lives. Still, every night, when Laura lay beside her husband, she would sometimes wake up gasping, hearing again the suffocating silence of the coffin. Michael would hold her until her breathing steadied, whispering, "You're safe now. You're home." And Ethan, the boy who refused to let go, grew up with a story that no one could forget. Years later, when asked why he'd been so sure that day, Ethan always gave the same simple answer: "Because I could still feel her heartbeat in mine." And though the world tried to rationalize it, science, coincidence, intuition, Michael and Laura knew one thing for certain. Sometimes, love itself is the faint heartbeat that keeps us alive when everything else stops.